Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3 Iron, and today we are taking a look at the Blight economy overview for the first week of the 3.8 patch. We're going to take a look at how the first week of Blight has shaped up and how does it compare to Legion, the previous league, in its prices. There's of course been a lot of discussion over the last week, both on the official forums as well as on Discord channels, as well as on YouTube, as well as on Reddit, just comparing Blight to Legion overall and how the profitability versus how the economy is shaping up, how itemization looks a little bit different, all the necessary and needed things that come associated with a new Path of Exile League and a new Path of Exile major patch update. So I referenced back to our week 3 and week 4 Legion update in order to give us a point of reference and a point of comparison with how the economy developed. Now, of course, this isn't a one-to-one correlation. It's a little bit different timing in the league, so there are some differences there, but it will give us something of a view to appreciate exactly where some of the distinctions and some of the differences in demand, as well as some of the differences in distinctions in supply, is coming from during patch 3.8 Blight League, and comparing that to 3.7 Legion League. Those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. You can go ahead and like, subscribe, and ding the bell for more videos and discussions just like this one. If at any point in time you'd like to reference any of our particular major topics, you can do so by referencing the timestamps that are placed above my slightly balding banking forehead. And if at any point in time you would like to simply jump ahead or revisit, those will be hot linked for you down below in the video description. With all that being said, let's jump right into our currency comparison between Blight League Week 1 and Legion 3.7 Weeks 3 and 4. First off, Mirrors of Calandra right now are at about 9,000 chaos, right? That's what they're trading. There are not many out there in Blight Softcore, and just for the purposes of comparison, this entire discussion is going to be about Blight Softcore and its economy. In Blight Softcore right now, mirrors are, of course, as always, the tops. Then coming in at second is the Mirror Shard, then Blessing of Chayula. We're going to take a look at that in just a few moments, looking more into Fragments, but Blessings are a big deal because, of course, running Chayula is a big deal this early in the league. Exalts are trading at about 150C right now, with Ancient Orbs coming in at about 24, and then Orbs of Annulment already up in the high teens. When you compare this with Legion from our comparison video earlier in Legion League, you can see that Mirrors of Calandra were at 15k chaos. Mirror Shards were at about 795, just under 800 chaos a pop. Exalted Orbs were at 159. Now, here's an interesting point of comparison. You might say, well, Iron, these aren't perfect one-to-one ratios because of the timing of the league is different. Absolutely, I totally agree with that. But this is one of the reasons why it's so fascinating. According to some who would say that there's less supply but more demand during Blight League, or maybe vice versa, more supply but less demand, either way, Exalted Orbs are trading at a very close price to where they were almost a month into the League of Legion. So just in terms of their availability as well as in terms of their price, they're only a difference of about 9 chaos right now from where they were 3 weeks into the league, 4 weeks into the league for Legion. One of the reasons why I think this is a big deal is if you are playing softcore in Blight, there may not be that much more room for Exalted Orbs to go up. They're pretty much close to their threshold by this point in the league. When you look at something like Ancient Orbs, of course, are going to be much more highly valued in Blight versus in Legion League. Why? Well, simply because Nemesis mod is back on the Zana map, which means if you chance a unique map, or sorry, a unique belt inside a Nemesis map, or if you bring with you a unique belt into a Nemesis map, you can use an Ancient Orb and try to roll that sucker into a Headhunter. This is, of course, a natural cycle in the Path of Exile life cycle of the economy. Whenever there is Nemesis available on Zana map mods, Ancient Orbs typically tend to trend up and up and up throughout the league. And I would actually expect Ancient Orbs to go up even further, probably topping out around 30, maybe 40C a piece, simply because during the first week, we don't have a lot of content creators that are out there showing off their various Twitch clips, their various YouTube highlights, etc., of them chancing a Headhunter or of them Ancient Orbing a Headhunter. I fully expect those prices to go up as more and more gambling videos come out showing people profiting and making huge random RNG luck rolls where they turn something that is utterly worthless into something that is highly valued in the hundreds or potentially dozens of exalt range for headhunters. Legion League didn't have that, and so that simply explains why Ancient Orbs are sitting at about 11C, or were sitting at about 11C during Legion League, and why the price is so much higher now. Orbs of Annulment are an interesting scenario because Orbs of Annulment have really seen a love-hate relationship almost in the same way that Ancient Orbs have in terms of crafting. When there is a massive buff or change or release or patch for crafting, we see Orbs of Annulment go up in their value and in their price because they're more in demand, because there are more options for crafting in Path of Exile. Synthesis was a wonderful example of this. There was a bunch of end game, late game crafting that was going to take place with Synthesis, and of course, Orbs of Annulment went up in price as an association of this. We already can see that Orbs of Annulment are trading right around their same price as Legion League at the same present time. So it could be that Orbs of Annulment still have a little ways to go if there are more various crafting options that we figure out due to Blight League. But the reality is I don't expect Orbs of Annulment to move much further than where they are presently at. In fact, they may actually come back or simply remain where they're at for a while. Oftentimes, Orbs of Annulment and Divine Orbs go hand in hand, so you can actually see and judge if there's still growth room or if there's still pull room to pull one of those two back. Right now, Orbs of Annulment are much, much further out than Divine Orbs in Blight League. Divine Orbs are only selling right now for about 10C a piece. That is a pretty wide gap between Orbs of Annulment and Divine Orbs. I'm not sure if that's just, geophysical, metaphysical, physics or science. I don't know if that's some kind of weird economic calculus that's going on, but it seems like Orbs of Annulment and Divine Orbs often have a interwoven relationship. So if you've got a theory on that, feel free to share that down below in the comments. Moving on to our fragment comparison, you can see at the top of the charts in Blight 3.8 week 1, we've got Chayula's Breachstone, we've got just regular Breachstones, we've got pure Breachstones, we've got charged Breachstones, we've got enriched Breachstones. Everything that has to do with Chayula is at the top, and that is because, of course, all of the racers are pushing Chayula's domain in order to try and get as much XP to race to 100 as possible. Then also included at the tops of the charts for fragments are, of course, Timeless Marraketh Jewels, and of course, Timeless Templar Jewels. Those aren't jewels, those are emblems, actually. So thanks Head for actually correcting that. Those are both emblems, and those are both also trending up near the price of an Exalt. Those are fantastic, fantastic investments. If you can buy splinters or even target farm Legion content, those are fantastic investments, because as people get better and better gear on their headhunters and on their various magic farming characters that are going to then go into the domains and farm them, I would highly imagine that those are going to turn out to be profitable. And so I don't think we're anywhere close to the breaking point on them. So expect the price to go down for a while as people are farming for XP. And then once people start to farm for carries in those 5-way Legion fights, you will start to see those prices go up. Compare this to Legion League. You can take a look 3 to 4 weeks into the league. Of course, there's still Chayula stuff that was in towards the top, near the tops of the chart, but 3 to 4 weeks into a league, you can expect the best XP zones to start to drop off and the rest of the economy to catch up where things are mostly profitable. Marraketh emblems, of course, holding the top spot besides for Chayula, and other than that, you've also got the appearance, of course, of Mortal Ignorance, which is, of course, an Uber et Zeri fragment. One of the funny things that's really kind of unique about Blight League versus Legion League is, of course, we've got blighted maps. And so it's interesting to note that at the moment, of course, everything is moving onto fragments for Chayula's Breachstone, because that's where a lot of the XP has been at for the first week. But I really wonder if there's going to be a comparison in about 3 or 4 weeks' time between the top end expenses of maybe running pure Breachstone XP rotas versus running blighted map rotas, and the XP comparisons between those two. It'll be very interesting to see if there's any kind of correlation there for blighted maps. Moving on, we're going to take a look at Legion unique currency comparisons and Blight unique currency comparisons. So, of course, the Legion unique currency was the incubator system, which was really fun. You attached an incubator to your item. It's gone core, which means incubators are, of course, available in Blight. But what I wanted to do was actually compare incubators in Legion versus oils in Blight League. And the reason for this, rather than simply comparing incubators to incubators, was simply to take a look at how much players were interacting with the unique league currency in each league, whether that be Legion or whether that be Blight. And on the top end of things, you can take a look at Golden Oil right now is trading for about 1.2 Exalted in Softcore Blight League, whereas you could look and see time lost incubators in Legion during weeks 3 and 4 were topping out at 40C. So in terms of the prices and the ability to generate simply currency for yourself with really lucky drops or with combinations and turning them in at the right place, you can see that Blight is actually more profitable, considerably more profitable than Legion. That being said, the scarcity of oils also contributes to their high demand and to their high price. So on the one hand, you might look at it and you might say, oh, well, there's a lot more money to be made in Blight League because stuff is more valuable. But part of the reason why stuff is more valuable is it's less accessible. It's tougher to get golden oils than it was to get time-lost incubators. It's a lot tougher to run blights per hour than it was even 3 or 4 weeks into Legion when everybody had already figured out that running Legions per hour was the best thing to do. I imagine over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to figure out some different ways on really farming. I say we as a larger Path of Exile community, not just us here on the channel, but we as a larger Path of Exile community, I assume are going to get into some better strategic ways of farming Blight and making it profitable either for XP or for currency. And I think as those things come out, as that knowledge comes out and is disseminated throughout the community, then I think we're going to see some of the oil prices go down. Of course, some of the best passives on the tree require that golden and silver oil combination. And so, of course, everybody not only wants it because it's scarce, but we all want it because we want those passives anointed onto our various amulets that we are wearing. Moving on to unique accessories, speaking of amulets, well, we're actually not going to talk about amulets because, of course, when we're looking at unique accessories, there's really only one reason why we're taking a look here, and that is, of course, the Headhunter. Headhunters right now in Blight League Week 1 are trading at about just under 60C, at about 58 to 59 exalts per belt for the Headhunter. Whereas 3 to 4 weeks into Legion, everybody had already figured out, hey, these things are broken for the Legion mechanic, and they were trading at about 113 exalts 3 to 4 weeks into the league. Now, here is a really tough prediction to make, because if you just look at this and say, oh, well, over time, of course, Headhunter is going to go up in value according to this particular chart if we're just comparing the first week of Blight and the 3rd or 4th week of Legion. But I know many out there are astute Bank of Exile PoE enthusiasts, and so you know that this is not a one-to-one correlation. Part of the reason why the Headhunter was so dang expensive during Legion League was, of course, because of the domain of various encounters and various fights to take on in the timeless domain fights. Those fights were incredibly rewarding as you stacked Headhunter buffs. Well, up until now, we haven't had anybody, fingers are crossed, we haven't had anybody show us quite yet exactly how to min-max Headhunters on the Blight encounters that we are presently interacting with. I still think Headhunter has got a ways to go for a couple of reasons. One of them is, of course, we've got a new divination card that has come out that gives a Headhunter that is corrupted, but it has double implicits corrupted. One of the reasons why I think Headhunter overall is going to go up is, yes, everybody wants a Headhunter, that's great, but at the top end where players typically within the first week or so we're getting just regular Headhunters and farming at the top end of the economy, I think those same top end high demand users are now going to be demanding double implicit Headhunters in order to absolutely min-max the heck out of their characters. So we might actually see regular Headhunters come down in their price, but Headhunters overall go up in their price because there's a lot of people that are going to be looking for those double implicit Headhunters thanks to the Demon card that has come out. Now, the Demon card, of course, guarantees you a Headhunter with 2 implicits rolled corrupted on it, and one of the, of course, great benefits of that is that you don't have to risk it in the double corruption chamber of the Temple of Atsuatl. It is a big risk to throw a Headhunter in there. Yes, you can do it and get a double corrupt to come back out, but it is a serious risk to do so. Whereas farming the demon just guarantees you double implicits. Even if they're terrible, you haven't lost your Headhunter. You can at least recoup it for the value of, I don't know, a Headhunter, right? So there's a lot that's going on right now because of the advent of the Demon card that may actually lean towards the Headhunter price going up overall, but that's going to be because the market is going to become a little bit more populated with double corrupted implicit Headhunters, which are just going to be ridiculous. Then when you couple that with what we've yet to see, which is a bunch of rares being taken advantage of during a Blight particular map, I think that's where we're going to see the Headhunter go up in price. Again, last warning on Headhunter, I don't think it's going to touch where it was in Legion League. I don't think it's still got double the growth left inside the Headhunter. That's my personal opinion. Maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, I'll be proved wrong. Moving on to maps in Blight, you might be asking what are the most popular Blighted maps to run and why are they popular? Well, the Blighted Siege map comes in at the top spot, and then it quickly drops off from there. Blighted Siege map comes in at trading at just under 80 chaos per, with Blighted Canyon, Blighted Colonnade, Blighted Dark Forest, and Blighted Coves rounding out your top 5. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Blight is that depending on your particular philosophy, you might want Blight to actually take place in a wide open, expansive map where there's lots of places for the tendrils to go, so that way hopefully you can get lots of different tendrils and lots of different towers going. Or there's another philosophy, you're actually going to run it in a rather tight or indoor style layout of a map in order to hopefully have different rooms and have tight corridors where either your minions or your abilities or your towers can take out long lanes of enemies. It's very interesting to see 1 week into the league all of the various maps that are of course at the top. They're all tier 15. But to see what that jostling for position looks like, I assume as more and more players acquire their Elder Orbs and begin farming at various levels of maps, we're going to figure out which of these particular Blighted maps is actually going to be the best bang for the buck in terms of the XP, as well as, of course, the number of drops populated in the zone. I fully expect the meta to come out over the next week to 2 weeks by the time we hit that same comparison point in Legion, right around week 3 to week 4. Skill gems in Blight, we are not doing a present build overview comparison. We might do that at some point next week. I simply don't have time to get to it all right now. But this is notable from an economic standpoint because so many players forget that you can actually level gems in your offhand. So if you're ever looking or just need to make extra currency, simply boot up an extra wand or an extra shield, put it in your offhand in your weapon swap setup, and that particular gem will get you currency. If you are new to Path of Exile, and maybe this is your first time on the channel, you're welcome. You're going to go make a bunch of extra currency because that's 6 extra gems that you can level up to 20, and then that's 6 extra gems that you can potentially corrupt into a level 21 gem and make a whole bunch of currency selling it on the market. So you might want to know, hey, Iron, what are the best-selling gems and most popular gems in Blight League? Well, no shock here. Empower comes in at the top spot at just under 6 Exalted. But a surprise in the number 2 spot is Ray's Spectre. Ray's Spectre at Corrupted level 21 with 23 quality is at 5 Exalted. That is a ton of currency for a regular, relatively underwhelming skill that has not been meta for the last several years in Path of Exile. So of course it is the Necro and Summoner update, so a lot of people are playing Spectres and want to try them out. This is of course at their peak of popularity and at demand, so I would just say socket in some of those blue Ray Spectre gems, make sure you've got plenty of intelligence, and level them up and have a great time. You can access them, they're easy to get, they're cheap to get. If you can't be leveling in Empower, the next best thing is to go to Lily in Act 6 and get a Ray Spectre. Next up is Enlightened Support, then Vol Haste coming in at 3.4x. Then Essence Drain is still up near the top at 3x. With Summon Carrion Golem, that's actually seen a dip in its price, but it's still at 3x. Ethereal Knives and Vol Cyclone are up there with Toxic Rain rounding out the top skill gems. Of course, all of these skill gems are worth currency when they're corrupted and at the top end. So don't feel bad if you're already leveling, let's say, I don't know, additional Ray Zombies or, let's say additional summon raging spirits, because those are also very, very highly wanted, even if the gem level or the quality of the gem level is 21 level, 20 quality. Those are still 2x in their price. So simply socket it in that extra hand and make some extra currency, because there's a ton of players playing, well, assassin and poison based characters, and a ton of characters playing, well, necros and summoners. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for watching. I've got 2 questions for us here today to react to down in the comments. First off, what are your predictions for the league economy in 3.8 Blight League? Do you have any predictions? I've got to give myself a big pat on the back, because 2 leagues ago during Synthesis League, I told a bunch of you to go out and buy annulment orbs when they were really, really cheap. A bunch of you listened to me, and a bunch of you made a ton of currency. I've got to make also a pat on the back, because last league, during Legion League, we said, hey, if everybody's going to be running these Alch and Go Glacier maps, we said go out and invest in alchemies, because alchemies are going to be widely used this league. So those are 2 pats on the backs. 2 smack on the faces where I've been totally wrong over the last couple of leagues have simply been in Exalt prices. I haven't hit an Exalt crash recently. I think the last time I hit the Exalt crash right on the nose was during the Betrayal League during 3.5. But what about you? What are your predictions for the league economy in 3.8? And of course, how has your bank been going thus far 1 week into the league? Is it sitting on empty? Is it generating some currency as you're going? Maybe you found a particular corner of the market and you're making quite a nice sum of currency while you're working that corner of the market. How's your Bank of Exile been going thus far 1 week into the league? My Bank of Exile has been going relatively well in hardcore, because I've really been using a lot of cheap stuff, because of course summoners are incredibly cheap to gear. The most expensive thing that I'm probably wearing right now in hardcore is the Baron, because one of our guildies, one of my good friends, Beckett, shout out to Beckett, he dropped a Baron naturally and he's been letting me use it, so that's been very kind of him. Other than that, I've had 2 pure Exalteds drop, and we're just trading up currency and making as much passive currency by flipping currency as possible, while also, of course, farming maps and, of course, occasionally ripping characters. But more on that in an update later on. How has your bank been going, and what are your predictions? And once again, thanks so much for watching, and I hope today is the day a Mirror of Calandra drops for you.
Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.